All right. I think we're live. So I want to say hello to everybody who has joined me today. Today, I do my live streams on Wednesdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. And so I'm always excited when individuals are on. You have to excuse me. I was running a little bit behind today. So I ran up the stairs and everything should be ready to go. The topic's ready to go. I'm excited about it because this is definitely one that I feel most people kind of skip over. They half do it. And as a result, it affects everything in their business. So I always suggest that if you are on with me and you are live, by all means, let me just make sure I can get my comments up so I can see them because I always like to know if, in fact, you are on with me. By all means, let me know that you're here. Let me get my comments ready to go here. Let's see here. There we go. So if you want to say hello, by all means do so. I am just adjusting everything. I had a different setup for a few days because I was recording the videos for a challenge that's happening inside of my community. So when I do that, I switch over and do a little bit of a different type of setup. But all's well now. I'm here, ready to go. And as I mentioned, what I'm doing today is the type of thing that I want to make sure you get the information you're clear on because it will, in fact, have a huge impact on your business. So, what are we going to be talking about today? And what we're going to be talking about is clearly defining your ICA. What's your ICA? It's your ideal customer avatar. And I think this is a step that so many people either half do, don't do at all, or really don't understand the importance of how taking the time to do this can help your entire business. And I'm going to share some of my personal experience with you on why this works. And hopefully, my personal experience will help you understand. Just take the, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, however long it takes you to do it so that you could have similar results. So let's talk first and foremost about what an ideal customer is. And let me start by saying that sometimes people confuse this a little bit. So, when you decide that you're going to create content, you're going to start your online business and so forth, one of the first things you tend to do is pick a niche. You decide on something you're interested in, and you then decide that that's what you're going to focus on. So, let me give you an example. And I'm going to use myself because that's the easiest example for me. Um, for me, what I do is I teach new solopreneurs who are 45 years of age and over how to build an online business where they are going to earn income via digital products, courses, master classes, and affiliate marketing. That's what I do. All right. Now, within my audience, you heard me say 45 years of age and older is, my niche in terms of teaching these individuals. But within that niche or within my audience, there's a subset of individuals, and this happens in everyone's audience. And that subset of individuals is who I'm really focused on creating content for. That doesn't mean that the other individuals in my audience won't benefit because they will. But I focus in on a specific person, and that person is my ideal customer. And so when you are focused on this ideal customer, you're going to be thinking about what they're struggling with, who they are, what do they need. And chances are your ideal customer is a previous version of you. Now, when I mention the word avatar, what do I even mean by that? Well, your ideal customer avatar is just a made up person that encompasses certain qualities that you envision the people in this category actually have or what they experience. Now, in a little later on, I'm actually going to introduce you to my ideal customer avatar, and I'm going to show you how in depth and how detailed I am in terms of creating this. And this is also what I suggest you do because it will definitely help you. Now, I want to go back to something because I mentioned that there are other individuals in my audience. Now, My ideal customer avatar happens to be female. But does that mean that I don't have men in my audience? No, it doesn't, because I absolutely do have men in my audience, and they're welcome to be here because they can certainly benefit from it. The same thing's going to happen for you. So, I really want to make sure that we are clear on this. And what I'm going to be doing is sharing with you some of the characteristics you should define for your ideal customer and how they differ from the other people who are within your audience. All right. So if you want to say hello, do so. I've got my comments up now so I can actually see you. Let me know where you're watching from. And I'm sorry, I don't think I personally introduced myself. I'm Rhonda M. Jordan, and you heard me talk about myself in terms of who it is that I help. And essentially, I help individuals 45 years of age and over learn how to build an online business using things such as, first and foremost, creating content to attract their ideal customer. Secondly, I teach them how to grow an email list. Thirdly, I teach them how to create and sell digital products. And then I also teach how to use affiliate marketing to grow and enhance your income. So if you're one of those individuals that, those types of things are in fact of interest to you, you're definitely in the right place. I'd also encourage you to grab a notepad and pen or however it is you take notes, on your phone or whatever, because what we're going to be doing is giving you some information today that's definitely going to help you. So, all right, I see that Justina is here from Fort Worth. Welcome to you. And she's also a member of my community. So I will talk about the community a little bit later on. All right, so if you have been attempting to build an audience, for example, because this is the first struggle most people come up with, when they're trying to build online, it's likely because the content you're creating is in fact not attracting the right individual, meaning your ideal customer. And part of that happens because when you're creating content, if you're all over the place or it is not targeted, then you will not attract the individuals you're hoping to have in your audience. So that's one of the reasons why I focus so much on also being crystal clear about your content, because the content is what's going to move people in. I can tell you from personal experience, once I clearly identified my ideal customer and started to create content specifically for that individual, those individuals started to arrive in my audience. And they continue to arrive in my audience every single day. Is it me necessarily? Well, in some cases, it's because they like my personality and style and so forth. But I'm nobody special. If you do the same thing, it's going to happen for you as well. All right. Now, the thing that I want to also get into, and I'm looking at my notes. So if you see me looking over here, that's in fact what I'm looking at. So, one of the other things that when we are talking about your ideal customer is you're also going to be working to identify the things that they're struggling with. So, what is it that they need to know and so forth. And then also, we're going to be making sure that we, in fact, are giving them what they need in terms of the actual content. Now, I want to go back to something for just a second here, and I'm kind of doubling back because I want to make sure I don't miss any of this. But as I mentioned, if you can get to the point where your content speaks directly to your ideal customer, you're going to be surprised at how quickly they start showing up, particularly when you are creating content on a consistent basis. All right. Now, let me just start off by doing this. The first thing that I want to do is give you, and let's see, I have 9 things, 9 characteristics I'm going to give you in terms of what you should be trying to write down and understand about your ideal customer. So these are things you need to know about them in order to make sure that you can create content that's going to attract them. Okay, first and foremost, you have to know who they are. You heard me say that within my audience, I have a specific individual. So, what I'm going to do at this time is I'm actually going to introduce you to this individual, and then I am going to take you through the rest of the characteristics. So bear with me one second while I switch over. And this might seem a little strange to you as I do this, but let's see here. Give me one second to get it to switch for me. Go back to myself for a second and make this active because I want you to be able to see my ideal customer. Let's see if it's switching. All right, let me do it this way. It's not making this window active. So let me try to bring this down. Click and see if this will do it for me. Hmm. It seems like technical things have been, the technical gremlins have been coming at me left and right. And some of this, like I said, is because of the way that I have my system set up. Let's see if this will do it now. Nope. All right, I may have to walk you through it because there we go. All right, sorry about that. I was pressing the wrong button. Okay, so this is my ideal customer, and I want you to know you can see on here this says copyright 2022. This is how far back it was that I identified my ideal customer. And what I did is this is just a workbook that I created. I'll drop this into my community because I'm not sure if I actually put it in for them either. But here's what I did, and you should be able to see this. Let me bring this down just a little bit so you can see a little bit more of it, and then I'll expand out. I want you to see this picture down at the bottom, and then I'll explain to you how all of this comes together. So what I did is I sat down and I wrote out specific things about my ideal customer. And within my ideal customer, let me just give you some of the high points. Essentially, I named her Nicole. Nicole is not a real person, okay? So for me, Nicole she's married, she has a couple of kids that are teenagers, and she works in corporate America. Essentially, she has a mortgage. She has some debt that she wants to get paid off. But more importantly, she wants to be able to spend time with her kids before they go on to college. The next thing I can tell you about Nicole, remember I mentioned she works in corporate America. Well, with her, she's working long hours. She's tired of the corporate politics. She's, looking for something totally different that will free up her time and schedule. Although she makes a six-figure income, she still doesn't feel like she's being paid what she's worth because there are other individuals doing the exact same job that she does who are being paid more. All right. Now, I don't know if you can relate to any of that. So, what she started to do is to go online and look for different ways to start an online business. She's heard about digital products, she's heard about email marketing, but she really doesn't know how to pull all this stuff together. And so she's kind of stuck. And so what she's doing is trying each day, she does a little bit of research online, watching YouTube videos and so forth, trying to pull everything together. But her ultimate goal is to be able to replace her current income with her online business where she's creating and selling digital products. All right. So that is my ideal customer. Now, the picture you saw, I went onto a website called Pixabay, and you can do Pexels or whatever. And I found a picture of a woman on there that I felt really encapsulated the individual that I look at as my ideal customer. And then I popped it in. And you see, now I didn't even go into the second page, but I have a full second page of this content. Let me just get my notes back up here. I have a full second page of this content about Nicole where, I got really detailed about her. Now, The reason why I wanted to take the time to share that with you is when I create any type of content, whether it is a post, if it's a lead magnet, if it is a training, a master class, a course, whatever, I have Nicole in mind. And that's the way you have to operate. When I'm doing a YouTube video like this, I'm thinking I'm talking to Nicole. Now, I'm looking directly at my camera, obviously, and I'm talking to you, but I'm thinking about Nicole when I put the topics together, when I write out, the main points of my training and so forth. That's why anytime I come to my training, I always have notes. And it's because I want to make sure that when I'm doing any type of training, that I don't miss anything that Nicole needs to know. Okay, you can replace yourself with Nicole. So now here's the thing that I can tell you, which is when I look at my audience, I have Nicole's showing up in my audience every single day. And it's interesting because they don't all have the exact same characteristics. They don't all have two children that are about to go off to college. They're not all married. They don't all work in corporate America. But there's some aspect of what I identified with Nicole that shows up in them. And it's because of the type of content that I'm creating that they're coming into my audience. Now, why, again, am I sharing this with you? You have to be just that crystal clear. And so the topics I'm going to be sharing with you today are things you should sit down and go through to clearly identify your Nicole, so to speak. All right? So any questions on that so far? And also let me know whether or not you have identified your ideal customer. Okay, so Denise is on. Hey, Denise. She says, Indiana in the house. My ICA is a woman learning the skill set. She needs to make and keep a home, typically somebody in their 30s, married, maybe a few years now, really trying to figure things out. Exactly. And so when you're creating content, all of your content gets created for her. I would give her a name, Denise, because like I said, I just named mine Nicole because, as I said, it just helps me to more comfortably think in terms of them. Now, here's the interesting thing. Your ICA, your ideal customer avatar, is likely a previous version of yourself. I worked in corporate America. I worked long hours. I definitely had individuals who did the exact same job as I did who were making more money. I used to spend time constantly online trying to figure out how to start an online business. So Nicole is just a previous version of me. Your ideal customer is probably going to be the exact same thing. All right, so let's go ahead and get back into these things. So number one, who are they? I want you to be very clear about their age range, their life stage. Like you saw that Denise said she's married. Her person is married maybe a few years now. She's in her 30s and she's trying to figure things out. You can identify their career or business if that's important, their experience level. My customer or my ideal customers are beginners. Nicole's a beginner. She's trying to figure what she should even be doing. So she's a very at the very beginning stages. The second thing, what's her current situation? Well, you heard me say that Nicole's trying to figure out how to replace her income so she can spend time with her kids before they head off to college. Okay, so that's what I want you to really think about as you're going through this. Your person's name is Chrissy. I love it. So, yep. So whenever you are creating content, Chrissy is the one you're thinking about. All right, the second thing that I want you to do when you're figuring out who your ideal customer is what do they want? All right. So what is their goal or their desired outcome? So it might be, like in my case, that they want to build an online business. They might want to grow an audience, start an email list, create digital products, earn extra income, eventually leave their job. Again, that's my person. When I'm thinking about Nicole or Chrissy, as Denise identified, she's trying to put things together. She's trying to figure out how to keep home. And I want you to think about just that in and of itself. There's so many aspects of that you can cover, because if she's new, now let me ask you this, Denise, Does Chrissy work outside of the home? So does that add an additional level of stress to what she's trying to pull together? And for those of you who are also on, feel free to drop in introduce me to your ideal customer. I'd love to know a little bit about her. Do the same type of thing that Denise did, where she actually spelled out, I'll put it back up, where she quickly spelled out some of the characteristics of her ideal customer. All right. Now, the next thing that I want you to do is make sure oh, yeah. So when you're creating your content for your ideal customer, your content has to speak to them. So that's why whenever I share any type of training or do any type of training, I always share my personal experience because I want the Nicoles in my audience to see I'm just like them. I used to work in corporate America. I was a CPA working in corporate America. And I'm telling you, at one point, I traveled 50% of the time. The burnout was real. So I can definitely relate to people who are at that stage as well. The next thing, number 3. So let me go back and recap. 1, who are they? The second one is going to be what they want. What do they want to be able to accomplish? What can you teach them? What do they want to learn? What do they need to learn in order to do whatever it is that they want to? All right, the next thing, number 3, what are they struggling with? So what problems are they trying to solve right now? Okay, so when you think about your ideal customer and you know what your niche is, you have to think in terms of where are they? What is it that they're struggling? They're online trying to figure it out. And here's what happens, and you know this to be true. When people are dealing with a specific issue that they're trying to figure out, they're going to get online and they're going to go from video to video to video to video. And what happens is they may very well find their solution. But sometimes what happens is because they've heard it from 5 different people, now they're confused because this person said do it this way, this person said do it this way. So, you want to be able to share with them connect with them because of you all having some things in common, but the other thing is you want to be able to give them a clear path. So when I talk about what they're struggling with, what are they trying to figure out how to do? So like with my person, Nicole, she doesn't know how to create content. She doesn't even know that she needs to create content in order to bring in her audience. She definitely doesn't have an audience. She's not sure of how to create a lead magnet. As a matter of fact, she's just trying to understand what what email marketing is. So even though she may have heard of a lead magnet, she doesn't yet know how to pull that together. She certainly doesn't know how to create a digital product, so she's been trying to figure that out as well, and she's just overwhelmed. That's where she's at. So what are some of the things that your ideal customer is dealing with based upon your niche? So let's say, for example, and I'm going back to, let's see. So Denise says that her person has a daycare business outside of the home. She's definitely stressed out by the end of the day. I can believe that. So she definitely needs a plan or multiple plans to be able to handle things. And you're definitely the perfect person to be able to share that with her. So think in terms of that. What are they struggling with? What do they need to figure out? And I want you to write all this stuff down because these are going to be topics that you can use to create content for them. Okay. And remember, because I mentioned that oftentimes they're online searching, a lot of the things that they're doing is they're putting in things such as, how do I do X? How do I do Y? What does this mean? So for example, let's go back to Nicole. She might type in, what is a lead magnet? Because she may not know what that is. So what types of things might your ideal customer be typing into search engines? And you should have that written out in such a way that those are listed as potential content ideas for you. So those, how do I do this? What does this mean? How do I accomplish this? Those are great types of content pieces to create. And really, those are going to be what we refer to as searchable content. Why? Because people are going into the search engine, typing in a specific thing, trying to find the answer. I will tell you that for me, a lot of the content that I created initially was search based, which meant that people would find me because I created content that answered questions. I created content that taught them how to do certain things, tutorial style videos, and so forth. So I'm sharing these types of things with you to help you understand not only how to identify your ideal customer, but how to reach them. Because that's going to be, you can figure out who they are, but then the next step is going to be trying to figure out how to actually reach them. And it's going to be through your content. All right. Now, the next thing, number 4, what do they believe is holding them back? And so here's some things that, I'm going back to Nicole again, my ideal customer. She might be thinking she's too old to start. Come on, she's 50. No, she's definitely not too old to start. As a matter of fact, there's a gentleman, I can't think of his name right now or his channel on YouTube, but he's over 80 years old. And the guy's doing an amazing job of building an audience. Another thing is she might be thinking, or whoever your ideal customer is, might be thinking, like, I'm using myself because this is the easiest example for me to go through. If you throw some of yours in there, I will also address those as well. But the other thing is, maybe they're thinking they need an audience first. They don't know enough yet. They need to be on every platform. So these are things that I would create content around to help Nicole understand she doesn't need to do. With Denise, some of the things that she might be that might be holding her back, her Chrissy person back, is not having a plan, not understanding some shortcuts, not knowing specific tips, not knowing how to accomplish certain things, not knowing how to plan things out. So those are things that your ideal customer is struggling with, and it definitely is going to hold them back until they have a plan that's going to allow them to move forward. All right, the next thing, number 5, is what have they already tried? Okay, so see, this is where you can drop in some content that's going to bust myths, so to speak. So what do I mean by that? Maybe they've tried something and it didn't work. And the reason it didn't work is they really didn't know what they were doing. And so then they started to develop certain ideas about things, thinking that they needed to do this or they needed to do that. You can come in and bust some myths on them and say, you don't have to, let's say, for example, like with Denise's person, um, you don't have to come in knowing how to do all of this. This is all stuff you can learn to do, and then Denise could share her experience on how she learned to do this. With my person, I could then talk about the fact that Nicole doesn't have to be posting random content and shouldn't be posting random content because that is not going to work. The other thing is I could talk about, what I see a lot of people in my audience attempt to do is attempt to create a digital product before they've ever built an audience. Okay. And then they wonder why it's not selling. It's because you haven't done things in a certain order. The other thing is trying to sell without an email list or not building an email list at all. And then starting and stopping. This is another big one. Starting and stopping because they're feeling overwhelmed. So maybe like with Denise's person, maybe she's in a phase where in some instances she is totally overwhelmed, particularly with working outside of the home, with having a household to manage and so forth. So, what are some strategies you can give her in order to understand, how she can release some of that overwhelm? All right, so that's another thing. Now, the next thing with your ideal customer, what do they need to learn next? What's the next logical thing? So, for example, going back to Nicole, the first thing Nicole needs to understand is she's got to understand the steps that and the order in which she needs to do the steps to build an online business. You just heard me address the fact that so many people will create a digital product before they ever have an audience. Sometimes they create it before they even ever identify their ideal customer. And I don't know how that works because, who's going to buy it? You have no one to sell it to, and you don't even know if that's what your ideal customer is looking for. So explain things to them, or write down some of the things that she needs to know or he needs to know, depending on who your ideal customer is. So help them clarify what the next thing is. For me, I would help Nicole build or create strategic content. I would also tell Nicole, you're not going to be posting on 5 different platforms. You're going to pick one platform that your ideal customer is on. So going back to your ideal customer, what do they need to know next? What is the first thing, if they're brand new, that they need to know? And maybe you start with that. So make a list of things that individual also needs to understand. Now, the other thing that I will tell you, number 7, is a big one, which is what type of content can you create that's going to attract your audience? Now, you heard me say a little earlier that I actually created content that was search based. I did a lot of search based content initially based upon what I knew for a fact that someone like the Nicoles of the world were going to be searching for. So for you, do the same thing. What's going to attract them? What types of things do you think they're typing into the search engine? What do you think they are struggling with and they need a plan for? And so at some point, they're going to pop into Google, go to ChatGPT, or perhaps go to YouTube to try to figure things out. Another thing is, what type of lead magnet could you create for them? Okay, because this is where the next thing, once you know who your ideal customer is, creating a lead magnet becomes 10 times easier, because now that you know who they are and you know what they're struggling with, you're just going to simply pick one problem and solve it. See, that's what a lead magnet is designed to do. And for many of you, if you have not yet done that, that's going to be also a step that you need to put into place. Not only are you going to create content, but you're going to create a lead magnet, because it may very well be that lead magnet that makes them say, you know what, this is exactly what I need. Why? Because you knew what they were struggling with. You're a previous version of them. And I also want to say this to you, which is, don't think that you need to be an expert by any means, okay? All you need to do is be 1 to 2 steps ahead of the individual. You just need to have figured out what the problem is, and then you can create it. And so here's what's going to happen. In some instances, your person is going to be on the internet searching. They're either going to run across a piece of your content, or perhaps they will run across your landing page. A landing page is where they're going to see or first learn about your lead magnet. And the reason for it is it's just a page that's going to pop up. It's probably going to have some search-based terms. And so if they've been trying to figure out, how to do laundry, how to plan meals for 30 days, how to build an audience, how to get ready for my new puppy. Okay, I just did a training that encompassed that within my, we're doing a lead magnet challenge within the community that we have. And so what I did is I just showed how somebody who is getting a new puppy, you could create a simple checklist for them of the items they need to have at home before they bring their new puppy into their house. And it's just focused on, these are the items that you need. So a simple lead magnet is definitely something that should be part of your overall plan. All right. Now let's see here. Okay, so Denise says, ICA says she's tired. She struggles with laundry, routines, meal planning, orders DoorDash quite a bit. Plus the children are in her kids are in, oh my goodness, yes, in various activities after school. So she's also the mom taxi. So, that's very real. And so giving a plan that can be executed around all of that, that can make for a ton of content that could be created. So I definitely see that. Let's see. And her kids are active in various activities after school. That's real. Okay. And then, something else. What is she going to do with them when the kids are out of school for the summer? Because now there's even more stuff that she's got to deal with. All right. So these are things you can even adjust your content around certain times of the year. Like I just mentioned, soon the kids will be out. I live in Georgia. The kids, are going to be out of school here in 2 weeks. So there are a lot of parents right now that are bracing for that situation, restocking the refrigerator because, they eat a certain way when they're in school versus when they're home for the summers. So there's just a lot of different stuff that you can think about in terms of creating content or perhaps a lead magnet that will in fact help them. All right. So the next thing is, one of the first things I would also do after you kind of narrow down some of your topics for the content to create would be, what type of lead magnet would be valuable to them? Would it be a checklist? Would it be a guide on how to do something? Would it be a master class that could be helpful? Would it be, being part of a small group of individuals that you're going to coach over, 2 or 3 hours? I mean, there's just a lot of different ways. And what I'm saying is your lead magnet can be a variety of things. Your lead magnet, honestly, could even be a community where you addressed some of these things. You talk about it in your content, and then you move people to your community. That could be one thing that you could do. Another thing that you could give them would be, as I mentioned, a starter guide, worksheets. Worksheets are perfect because that way they can sit and write things out. Another thing would be a swipe file. So a swipe file is nothing more than a collection of examples. That's probably the best way for me to explain it. A collection of examples on how to do something. So, but if you're knowledgeable in the area, you can write the guide yourself. And I always say, anytime you write a guide or an ebook or anything, include some of your personal experience. Share some of your personal stories because that's what people are going to connect to. That's what's going to make them, really connect with you. Because here's something I want to share also, which is a lot of times when I say to people, we're going to create a lead magnet, they want to head over to ChatGPT and have ChatGPT write it. Now, I'm not opposed to that. But here's what I can tell you. That should not be your entire lead magnet. I would say use ChatGPT to get ideas, but you need to put some of you into that lead magnet. So that's why one of the things that I would share would be something like, when I was first starting to learn to do laundry, or when I was first starting to plan to do meals, or for me, I would say, when I first started building an audience, I didn't know that content creation was as important as it really is. So I wasn't creating content on a regular basis. I was inconsistent. I was trying to do it on multiple platforms. I would share the things that I did because likely my ideal customer is doing the same things or considering doing the same things. So that is definitely going to be something that's going to help. Another thing too could be something like a roadmap. And I'm really big, as a matter of fact, my community is called the Digital Business Roadmap. I'm really big on roadmaps because I think people can easily understand them. What's a roadmap? We're going to do this first. After we do that, then we're moving to this next. Then we're going to move to this next, and we're going to move to this next. It just helps people understand the flow, the process, the doing things in a specific order. So a roadmap is also a great tool that people can actually use. And that's something that you could definitely provide as a lead magnet as well. And then you also have to start thinking a little further out, which is what type of digital product would they buy? Now, one thing I will tell you is that your lead magnet should, and the content that you're creating should all be directing them toward a specific digital product that you have, because then it just becomes a natural progression. It doesn't have to be the exact same topic, it just needs to be something that's going to take them deeper, because understand that a lead magnet is simply solving one single problem. Well, as we've already talked about, your ideal customer likely has numerous problems that they're dealing with. So all you're doing is using the lead magnet to actually bring them into your audience. Your content is going to do that as well. But what that's going to do is not just bring them into your audience, it's going to get them onto your email list where you can start to nurture them, connect with them on a regular basis, share specific things with them. And once you do that and you start to introduce your digital product to them, or perhaps you've even asked them, what type of product would you like for me to create for you? When that digital product gets introduced, it's an easy yes for them. Now, is everybody going to buy it? No, but it is a much easier yes than if you just set up a page selling your digital product and you're driving cold traffic to it, meaning people that don't know you, haven't connected with you, haven't been on any of your trainings, haven't watched the tips that you've shared, and so on. So when you start to think about that digital product that you're wanting to create, then you can think in terms of, should it be a mini course? Should it be a workshop? Should it be a toolkit? And I also will want to throw in here a masterclass. I like to tell you how I distinguish the difference between a masterclass and a workshop, if you will. Typically, with a masterclass, it's just you on camera talking and sharing knowledge. With a workshop, the way I look at it is you have a group of individuals, maybe you're doing this via Zoom, and what happens is you provide them with a workbook, or they can just take notes. I like the workbook concept. And you teach a specific thing, you stop, and you have them do the activity, meaning they write out their answers to it. Then you move on to the next section of the training, you teach it, and then you stop and you have them write their answers in their workbook to the next thing. So it's a working session. All right. And understand that all of these are things that you can charge for. You can charge for a mini course, obviously. You can charge for a workshop, and oftentimes you can even charge more for a workshop. You can charge for a master class, certainly, even though you're simply on camera teaching the class. Another thing that you could put together would be a toolkit. Now, a toolkit is just a collection of resources where you're not actually, for example, if I were to put together a digital products toolkit, I wouldn't be giving, it wouldn't be a digital product that I would actually be giving them, so to speak, although the toolkit is my digital product, but it's going to allow them to accomplish certain things. So let me go to Denise for a second and Chrissy. If Denise was going to create a toolkit for Chrissy, she might have a card on how to get stains out, or a section within there where she breaks that down. And then she might have, a laundry schedule could be another resource that could be part of the toolkit that she's putting together. A third thing could be, something else, but they all need to work together. So if you're going to do a toolkit, that's how you do it. Another thing, digital product wise, that's really, really effective because people like it, is a workbook. As a matter of fact, what I was showing you, let me go back to that and bring it up again. Let's see here. I'm going to bring up this workbook where I was introducing you to, um, make sure. Okay. So when I bring this up and I introduced you to Nicole, this is actually part of a workbook. So what I did is I created this, and if you notice, it actually walks us through all the specific things that your ideal customer would deal with. And then when you get to the end, I show you a sample. And once you've collected all your information, then what I have you do is write that out. So, why do I share that with you? Because workbooks are really effective. People love workbooks because it allows them to print it out and take a few minutes, some time to actually sit and think things through and then physically write out their answers. So when you start thinking about a digital product, do not discount that as something to actually, let's see here, something to actually do. All right, so let me go back and give you just a quick overview of the things you need to know if you have not yet identified your ideal customer. Number one, who are they? Number two, what do they want? The second or third thing is, what are they struggling with? Number four, what do they believe is holding them back? What have they already tried already? What have they tried already? That's number five. What they need to learn next. And then what content, number seven, what content will attract them? So, master classes, tutorials, what kind of stuff can you create that's going to attract them into your audience? And then what lead magnet could you create that's going to help them? That's number eight. And then number nine is, what digital product would they buy? Now, because you haven't likely built an audience, you have to put yourself in this position and think about when you were in that position, meaning that previous version of yourself, what would you have purchased? What would have helped you along the way? And then that is how you start to do it. Now, the digital product is going to come later. That is certainly not something that you're going to be working on. So I really just wanted to share this information with you because, as I said, I think too many people skip their ideal customer, that portion of actually sitting down and writing it out. And so when they start creating content, they are all over the board. And here's what happens when you do that. When you feel like when I told you my ideal or my audience is individuals 45 years of age and older who are looking to, build an online business and so forth. If I'm not creating content specifically for Nicole, then the Nicoles of the world are not going to show up in my audience. The same thing is going to be true for you. So you have to make sure that you are thinking about her or him as you are, in fact, creating the content you're going to be creating. Because if you just choose to create a bunch of generic stuff, people may come into your audience, but they're not likely to stay. What I can say to you is this: the more specific you can get, the better off you're going to be. And oftentimes, individuals who are new are afraid to get really specific. So let me give you an example of somebody who says, well, I want to help women lose weight. Well, what age group are the women? Because if you're trying to teach the same type of information to somebody who's 60 years old as you are to somebody who's 20 years old, exercise wise, they are not the same. And so it is much better for you to say, all right, what I've decided is I'm going to focus on teaching someone who's 30 years of age how to exercise, where we're going to be doing high impact exercises that are done in about an hour's time. Well, go for it, because that is very different than what most women who are 60 years of age and older are going to be looking for. They're likely dealing with some aches and pains and maybe some knee issues. So high impact may not be their thing. They may not want to exercise for an hour. So I hope that helps you understand. You've really got to narrow down your ICA, because if you don't take the time to narrow it down, you're going to have people maybe come into your audience, but they won't stay, or they're going to come into your audience, maybe watch a few pieces of your content or consume a few pieces of your content and then leave because they don't feel like they're in the right room. So, what I can say to you is, don't skip the step of identifying your ICA. make sure that if somebody were to ask you the question, who's your ICA, you can very clearly explain it to them. You notice, like when Denise actually shared her information, she was extremely clear on who her ICA is. Here's another thing. She says, my ICA, she's tired, she struggles with laundry routines, meal plannings, and we talked about this, orders DoorDash and so forth. So, these are things that are real. And this is why you've got to get so clear on everything that you have. All right, let me just make sure I didn't miss anyone as I was going through this. Bear with me one second. Got to get the comments so I can make sure I'm seeing everything and I haven't missed anything. And if in fact you commented and I missed it, by all means drop it back in so I can address it as well. So, do you have any questions on any of this as we're going through it? Because, as I said, this is something I just want to make sure that people really understand. Because, again, it will hold you back. If you can't get this narrowed down, if you don't know who that person is, you're going to be frustrated because, as I said, you're going to be creating content. Your audience is not going to grow because it's just not targeted enough. And, you're going to be wondering what you're doing wrong. And as I mentioned, what you're likely doing wrong or what needs to be corrected is simply that you have to go back in and identify your ICA and then begin to nurture who that person is. Nurture them through the content you create, the lead magnets that you create, the workshops, the workbooks, anything else that you happen to create. Because now people will start to find you and they're like, oh, this is the right room. I'm in the right room because I'm in here with other people who are similar to me, who are dealing with similar things and so forth. All right. Okay. So, any final questions before we wrap up? Any comments? By all means, if this has been helpful to you, definitely give it some thumbs up so that YouTube will push it out to other individuals. I also wanted to share with you that I do have a community, and you can actually join the community right now. We're in day 3 of a 5-day lead magnet challenge where we started from an idea on Monday, and we're going to be at a point of launching our lead magnets come Friday. So I walk them through the steps, and that's the kind of content that you can expect within the community. I'm still building it out, so it's by no means at the level that I expect it to be in about 5 or 6 months' time, but there's a lot of good stuff in there that will help you out. And again, if you're trying to figure things out, don't try to do all this stuff on your own. Get into the community where you can ask questions, participate in activities, consume the master classes, and so forth. And it will definitely help you out by doing that. All right. So with that being the case, I'm here each Wednesday, 12 p.m. noon Eastern time, and definitely looking forward to sharing more content similar to this that will help you build an online business. So without any further ado, I'm going to get ready to say goodbye to you all, and that I will see you next week. So what I want you to do is to focus in on, just who this person is, getting it narrowed down, and making things happen for them. So have an awesome day and an even better week, and I will see you next week, Wednesday, or in my community. Talk to you soon. Bye.